Welcome to Sec Oops podcast, created by Ben, Moyes, and Sneh, powered by Cyber Viewpoint. I'm your host, and today we're kicking off a brand new deep dive series. We'll be exploring the crucial domains of cybersecurity, and we're starting right at the foundation with security and risk management. You can sort of think of this domain as the central nervous system for an organization's digital defenses.
Yeah.
It really defines how we approach protecting, everything digital.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our mission here, like always, is to pull out the really important stuff from our source material, give you a shortcut to being informed, and hopefully hit you with some surprising facts along the way.
And it is foundational, understanding security and risk management. It's not just about buying the latest tech or setting up firewalls.
Right.
It's much deeper. It's about weaving a proactive, holistic protection strategy right into the company's DNA, knowing not just what to protect, but really understanding why and how to do it properly with foresight.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that, because before we even touch protecting systems, there's this whole layer of protecting principles. Why are ethics just so critical in cybersecurity? Seems obvious, maybe, but the real world stuff, those gray areas, that's where it gets interesting.
Ethics really are the bedrock. For security pros, you've got the ISC2 Code of Professional Ethics. It's not optional, it's mandatory.
The four canons, right.
Exactly. Protect society, act honorably, provide competent service, and protect the profession itself. And then organizations have their own internal codes, too. You need these because, honestly, the digital world throws up tricky situations all the time. Test your moral compass.
And those gray areas you mentioned, that's where people get tripped up. I've seen these, common fallacies people use to justify shady stuff online.
Oh, yeah.
Like the computer game fallacy, this idea that if something's not locked down tight, it's fair game to poke around in.
Right, it's just a game with no real consequences.
Or the candy from a baby fallacy. If it's super easy to do, it can't possibly be wrong. It's almost like simplifying away the ethical choice.
And those fallacies are dangerous. They normalize unethical actions. They completely ignore the impact on others. Think about RFC 1087, the IAB's Ethics and the Internet. It flat out condemns unauthorized access, messing with services, wasting resources, compromising privacy, makes it clear that using digital resources is a privilege, not some inherent right.
So, okay, why should this matter to just, an everyday user, not just the security folks?
Because everything we do online has ripple effects, right? Understanding these ethical guides helps you personally navigate things responsibly. It helps you spot when something feels off, whether you're building software or just posting on social media. It makes everyone a better digital citizen, basically.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, now let's dive into the absolute core of InfoSec. The CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Everyone hears these terms, but what do they really mean day to day? And is that the whole picture anymore?
They are definitely the fundamental pillars. So confidentiality, that's all about preventing unauthorized disclosure. Pretty straightforward. Think keeping health records, PHI, or your personal info, PII. Private, that's paramount.
Okay.
Then integrity. This means making sure information is accurate and complete, trustworthy, and importantly, that it hasn't been modified by anyone unauthorized, whether that's a hacker or even an authorized user doing something they shouldn't. Controls like access control, change management, they're key here.
And then there's availability. This one I feel like is the unsung hero. People don't think about it until, bam, it's gone.
Oh, absolutely. Availability is just ensuring that authorized users can actually get to the data and systems when they need them. Reliable, timely access, the threats, they're everywhere. DOS attacks, hardware failures, human error, even just not planning for enough capacity.
So how do you ensure availability then?
You build for resilience. Redundant hardware like multiple power supplies. Robust software, architectures with, backup routers, backup firewalls, and good management practices, of course.
Okay, here's where I think it gets really interesting lately. With the explosion of IoT, the Internet of Things, it feels like CIA isn't quite enough anymore. Is there, a new piece we need to add?
Yes, definitely. Increasingly, safety is being seen as a critical fourth element, especially with things like computer-controlled medical devices or self-driving cars or industrial control systems.
Right, where failure isn't just inconvenient, it could be dangerous.
Exactly. Information security now directly impacts human safety. Protecting data can literally mean protecting lives. It's a major shift. And we should probably also quickly mention nonrepudiation.
Yeah, the idea you can't deny doing something.
Precisely. Providing that irrefutable proof that someone performed an action Super important for accountability.
So these aren't just buzzwords floating around. They are the actual lenses you look through for every security decision, big or small.
That's it exactly. They're the fundamental requirements for any system you want people to trust. They guide everything.
Okay, so we have the ethical base, the core CIA concepts. How do organizations actually translate this into action? How do they, govern security across the whole company?
Right. That's where security governance comes in. It's all about aligning security work with the overall business strategy. You have this hierarchy, the long-term mission, supported by intermediate goals, which are then achieved through short-term specific objectives.
Makes sense. Keep security from just being this, isolated tech thing.
Exactly. It ensures security efforts actually support what the business is trying to achieve.
You often hear that phrase, security is everyone's responsibility, which sounds great, but
it can easily become no one is accountable, right?
yeah, how do you avoid that trap?
That's a huge point. You have to have clearly defined organizational roles and responsibilities. Security policy, job descriptions, even contracts. They need to spell out exactly who is responsible for what, from the C-suite showing commitment all the way down. Without that clarity, accountability just vanishes.
It sounds like organizations don't need to start from absolute scratch, though. There must be templates or frameworks out there.
Oh, absolutely. Companies lean heavily on established security control frameworks. There are quite a few. You've got the CIS critical security controls, or CIS. CISSP is very practical, covers a lot of ground.
What about for specific industries?
Yep, like the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, PCI DSS. If you handle credit cards, you have to comply. It's mandated by the card brands themselves.
Ah, industry mandate, not strictly law then.
Right. And for U.S. federal agencies using cloud services, there's FedRAMP. It's based on NIST guidelines, pretty rigorous. These frameworks give you a solid structure, a blueprint, saves a ton of effort.
So it confirms that security isn't just tech wizards in a basement. It's strategic, it's organized, and there are plans you can follow. Structure is key.
Exactly right. They provide a systematic way to manage security effectively.
Okay, with all these frameworks and policies, what about the law? Why is compliance often talked about as, a separate thing from real security?
That's a really important distinction to make. Compliance means you're meeting the specific rules, legal, contractual, regulatory, whatever applies. It's necessary. You have to do it.
But it doesn't mean you're actually secure.
Exactly. The threats today are just so sophisticated, you could tick all the compliance boxes and still be vulnerable. Compliance is more like the minimum baseline, not the ultimate goal. It's a step, but not the whole journey.
And actually prosecuting cybercrime sounds like a nightmare. What makes it so tough?
Oh, there are tons of hurdles. For one, the technology moves way faster than the law. Legislators, judges, they often struggle to keep up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Then you've got encryption making investigations hard. Evidence rules can be tricky with digital stuff. And honestly, just tracking down perpetrators who are bouncing through systems across different countries, very difficult. Plus, lack of resources or specialized skills in law enforcement is often an issue.
It sounds way easier if the attacker is, say, internal, like a disgruntled employee.
Often, yes. From an investigation and prosecution standpoint, it can be simpler. The person, the access they had, the likely motive. The evidence trail is usually clearer within the organization's own systems. Preventing it is another story, but prosecuting can be more straightforward than chasing an anonymous international group.
Beyond just catching criminals, what about dealing with breaches? Lots of places have laws now forcing companies to tell the public, right?
Yes, absolutely. Many U.S. states, for instance, have disclosure laws. If personal data is breached, you have to notify the affected individuals, often publicly. And honestly, the hit to reputation and customer trust from that disclosure can often hurt more than the legal fines. It's a big motivator for companies to get security right. Sometimes the laws even specify things, like if data is encrypted, maybe you don't have to disclose.
So that brings us to the whole privacy minefield. What's the core issue there?
Privacy concerns mostly revolve around personally identifiable information, or PII, unauthorized use, unauthorized disclosure. Any organization collecting PII, and most do, needs a really clear public privacy policy. It has to explain why they collect the data, how they use it, how they protect it, and what rights individuals have.
And it gets even messier with data crossing borders.
Oh yeah, transborder data flow. With cloud services, your data could physically be anywhere. Trying to comply with the privacy laws of, say, Europe, the US, maybe Brazil, all at the same time, it's incredibly complex. The EU's GDPR is a big one, huge impact, strong individual rights, strict rules about sending data outside the EU, and domestically you have laws like HIPAA in the US, specifically protecting health information, PHI.
Wow. It really underscores that navigating the legal side is just as critical as the technical side. It's a lot for organizations to juggle.
It truly is. The legal and compliance landscape alone shows why security is such an ongoing dynamic challenge. You can't just set it and forget it.
Okay, so every big project needs a blueprint. For security, you mentioned policies, standards, procedures, guidelines. They sound similar. What's the actual difference, and why do we need all of them? Feels like a lot of documents.
Yeah, it can seem that way, but they all have a distinct purpose. Think of building a house. Like you said, a policy is the highest level, the mandatory statement from management, like all employees must ensure company data is protected. It says what needs to happen, the overall goal.
Okay, high-level mandate. Got it.
Then a standard supports that policy. It's also mandatory, but it gets more specific about how. Like, all laptops storing sensitive data must use AES 256 encryption. It provides measurable criteria.
Right, makes the policy concrete. So procedures.
Procedures are the step-by-step instructions for doing a specific task that helps meet the standard. Like, here are the 7 steps to correctly encrypt your hard drive using our approved software. Very detailed, like a recipe.
And guidelines are the odd one out.
Kind of. Guidelines are recommendations, best practices. They're not mandatory. Like, here are some tips for creating strong, memorable passwords. Helpful advice, but not a strict rule you'll be audited against.
So why have all 4? Why not just write really detailed policies?
Because without this structure, tech solutions often end up being, well, inconsistent, maybe ineffective, definitely more expensive. These documents together establish clear governance, they guide people, they back up legal requirements, and they help make sure risks stay at an acceptable level. They turn those abstract goals into something everyone can actually follow day to day. It makes security consistent.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. Bad things happen. Fires, floods, major cyber attacks. What's the plan when, disaster actually strikes? How do businesses keep going or at least get back up?
Yeah, that's where business continuity BC and disaster recovery DR planning are absolutely vital. They sound similar, but they tackle slightly different things. Business continuity is about keeping the essential parts of the business running during the disruption. Maybe you shift operations to a backup site or have people work remotely. It's about minimizing the immediate impact.
Okay, surviving the storm.
Exactly. Whereas disaster recovery focuses on restoring normal operations after the disaster is over, getting the primary site back up, recovering data from backups, returning to business as usual.
And how do you even start planning for something like that? That seems overwhelming.
The absolute first step, the foundation, is the business impact analysis, or BIA. You have to figure out what your most critical business functions are, what has to keep running.
Makes sense. Prioritization.
Right. And the BIA also quantifies the potential losses if those functions go down. Both quantitative, like lost revenue, fines, repair costs, and qualitative damage to your reputation, loss of customer trust, that kind of thing. It tells you what's most important to protect and how quickly you need it back.
So once you know what's critical, how do you set targets for recovery? Like, how fast do things need to be back online?
That's where your recovery targets come in. There are a few key ones. The recovery time objective, or RTO. That's the maximum acceptable time that a business process can be down after a disaster hits. Maybe your critical sales system has an RTO of, say, 4 hours.
Okay, the maximum allowed downtime.
Pretty much. Then there's the recovery point objective, or RPO. This one's about data loss. It's the maximum amount of data measured in time that you can afford to lose. If your RPO is 1 hour, it means your backups need to be recent enough that you never lose more than an hour's worth of transactions or work.
So RTO is about time to restore service. RPO is about how much data you might lose.
You got it. And sometimes you'll hear maximum tolerable downtime, MTD, or maximum tolerable outage, MTO. That's basically the absolute outer limit the business can survive without a particular function. Your RTO has to be less than or equal to your MTD.
Wow. Okay, so planning for disaster isn't just like hoping for the best. It's a very structured process. Understanding RTO and RPO really forces you to think about what truly matters when things go sideways.
Absolutely. It takes this huge, scary concept disaster and breaks it down into manageable steps, focusing on resilience and getting back on your feet.
We've talked systems, policies, disasters, but systems are run by people, and people can be unpredictable. How do organizations handle the security aspects of their own staff, the most vital asset, really?
That's a fundamental point. Personnel security is crucial. And it doesn't start on day one of the job. It starts before hiring, with proper candidate screening.
Background checks and stuff.
Yeah, things like having clear, documented job descriptions outlining security responsibilities. And for more sensitive positions, maybe more extensive checks, criminal records, credit checks, verifying credentials. Once they're hired, employment agreements are key. Things like non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, to protect confidential information.
What about people moving around within the company? Promotions, transfers?
Good question. Job rotation can actually be a really powerful security control.
How so?
Well, if people know they might be moved to a different role or shift without much notice, they're less likely to try and set up some kind of fraud or abuse scheme, right? Because someone else might uncover it. It also helps catch high-impact mistakes because more than one person understands a process.
That's clever. Any downsides?
One risk is aggregation of privileges. Someone moves through several roles and just keeps collecting access rights they no longer need for their current job. That can create serious security holes if not managed properly through regular access reviews.
Makes sense. And then the end of the line, someone leaves the company. That seems like a really high-risk moment.
It absolutely is. Employment termination, whether voluntary or involuntary, needs really strict, carefully followed procedures. You need to immediately revoke all their access, physical badges, network logins, system accounts, recover all company assets, laptops, phones, conduct an exit interview, maybe even escort them off the premises depending on the circumstances. It's a critical control point to prevent data theft or sabotage. It's really a whole life cycle, securing personnel from before hire to after departure.
Okay, let's talk risk management. It's kind of the heart of this whole domain, but it can feel really abstract. How do you actually break down risk into pieces you can work with? Is there like a formula?
There is a basic concept.
Yeah.
At its core, risk involves three things: an asset that has value, a threat that could harm that asset, and a vulnerability that the threat could exploit to reach the asset. That's something that's called the risk management triple.
Asset, threat, vulnerability. Okay.
And a simple way to think about the risk formula is risk, asset value, X threat impact, X threat probability. Now, calculating those perfectly is tricky, but that's the idea.
So how do you actually analyze the risk using that idea?
You perform risk analysis. The process usually involves steps like, first, identify and value your assets. What are you protecting and what's it worth? Then define the specific threats: malware, human error, hardware failure, whatever. Then you try to calculate the potential impact, maybe using something like quantitative risk analysis.
Quantitative, that means using hard numbers, right? Like dollar figures.
Exactly. You calculate things like the single loss expectancy, SLE, how much you likely lose each time a specific threat happens, and the annualized rate of occurrence, ARO, how often you expect that threat to happen per year. Multiply those together, SLE times ARO, and you get the annualized loss expectancy, ARO. That gives you a dollar figure for the expected loss per year from that risk.
Sounds precise, but maybe hard to calculate accurately.
It can be very hard. Getting reliable numbers for asset value, impact, and especially probability can be tough. Plus, human bias creeps in. So purely quantitative analysis is often impractical. That's why many use qualitative risk analysis.
Which is more subjective.
Right. Instead of exact dollar figures, you use descriptive terms like rating the risk likelihood as low, medium, or high, and the impact similarly. You might use scenarios. It's less precise, but often faster and more feasible. Most organizations end up using a hybrid approach, combining elements of both. A key thing, though, is getting asset valuation right. Underestimate the value, you underprotect. Overestimate, you waste money on controls. Remember that $10 server making $5 million, its value is way beyond the hardware cost.
Okay, so you've identified and analyzed the risk. What do you actually do about it? What are the options for risk treatment?
You generally have four main choices. One is mitigation. That means taking steps to reduce the likelihood of the risk happening or lessening its impact if it does, like installing security patches or implementing stronger access controls.
Makes sense. Reduce the risk. What else?
You can transfer the risk. This usually means shifting the financial impact to a third party. Buying insurance is a classic example. The risk still exists, but someone else pays if it happens.
Absurd.
Avoidance. Sometimes the risk associated with an activity is just too high, or the cost to mitigate it is prohibitive. So you might decide to simply stop doing that activity altogether. Eliminate the risk by eliminating the source.
And the last one is acceptance. Just live with it.
Acceptance, yes. But it's not just ignoring it. It should be a conscious decision, usually for risks where the cost of mitigation outweighs the potential loss, or the risk level is very low. Crucially, acceptance should generally be for a limited time and involve ongoing monitoring. You accept the risk for now, understanding it might need reevaluation later as things change, because what's acceptable today might not be tomorrow.
So mitigation often involves putting controls in place. What kinds of controls are we talking about?
Controls, or safeguards, are just measures to ensure a desired outcome, usually reducing risk. We can categorize them in different ways by their function. Are they preventive? Stop bad things from happening. Detective? Spot bad things when they happen. Corrective? Fix things after they happen. Maybe deterrent? Discourage attackers. Recovery? Get back to normal. Or compensating? Backup controls if a primary one fails.
Okay, functional categories. Any other way to slice them?
Yeah, by type. Are they administrative controls, like policies, procedures, training, think management stuff? Technical controls, like firewalls, encryption, intrusion detection systems, think technology. Or physical controls, like locks, fences, security guards, think tangible things. Implementing these involves changing policies, tech, or maybe training people.
How do you choose which controls to use?
You weigh several factors. Cost effectiveness is huge. Does the control cost less than the risk it prevents? The cost-benefit analysis. You also look at legal liability, operational impact, does it make work harder? And technical factors. Is it compatible? Reliable?
And once a control is in place, how do you know if it's actually, working?
Great question. You have to assess control effectiveness. You can do this through inquiry, asking people, observation, watching processes, inspection, checking logs or records, or even reperformance, trying to do the task yourself to see if the control works. You need documentation and reporting, and crucially, continuous monitoring and measurement. You really can't manage what you don't measure. Monitoring verifies the controls are still effective over time. And again, frameworks like NIST Cybersecurity Framework or ISO 27005 provide structures for all this risk management activity. No need to invent it all yourself.
It really shows how risk management is this systematic way to break down uncertainty, analyze it, and make informed decisions instead of just guessing or hoping for the best.
Exactly. It brings a structured, repeatable process to managing the inherent uncertainties in cybersecurity.
So risk management helps us react and prepare. But how do organizations get proactive? How do they try to anticipate attacks before they happen? Is there a security crystal ball?
Not quite a crystal ball, but threat modeling is the closest thing we have. It's a systematic process, ideally done during the design phase of a new application or system, not bolted on afterwards.
So thinking about attacks while you're still building it?
Precisely. The steps usually involve identifying potential threats, diagramming how attacks might occur, maybe using an attack tree, analyzing those potential attacks, and then figuring out how to remediate the threats. A common way to identify threats is the STRIDE mnemonic.
STRIDE, what's that stand for?
Spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. It helps you think through different categories of attack. Then you fix things, maybe change code, adjust configurations, improve processes, train people, or add new safeguards. It's about designing security in from the start.
Okay, so threat modeling is design phase. Is that different from threat hunting? I hear that term too.
Yes, very different. Threat hunting is proactive, but it's about analyzing systems that are already running to see if threats are currently occurring or have already occurred undetected. It's an active search for adversaries who might already be inside your network, whereas threat modeling is about anticipating future attacks during design.
Gotcha. Another huge concern these days seems to be the supply chain. What does supply chain risk management, or SCRM, involve?
SCRM is critical now. It's about carefully evaluating any new hardware, software, or even services your organization plans to use, specifically looking at the security risks they might introduce.
Risks from your suppliers.
Exactly. Unintended upstream risks. Things like hardware being tampered with before you receive it, counterfeit components being used, or malware being injected into software updates from a supplier. You need to understand the security posture of everyone and everything in your supply chain.
And how do SLAs, service level agreements, fit into this? Aren't they usually just about uptime or performance?
They can be much more than that. Service level requirements, SLAs, when done well, are actually important security documents, especially with third-party vendors. They should absolutely include security expectations alongside performance metrics. Things like specifying maximum acceptable downtime for security incidents, required security controls the vendor must have, or rights to audit the vendor.
Okay, so it's clear organizations need to think like attackers before things get built, and they need to worry about the security of everyone they depend on. Even a simple purchasing decision could open a huge door for risk.
Absolutely. It requires vigilance across the entire lifecycle, from design through operations and managing all those third-party relationships. It's complex.
We've covered tech, policies, processes, but none of it works if the people involved aren't on board or don't know what to do. How do you make sure everyone, from the top down, is part of the security solution?
The human factor. Often the weakest link if not handled right. You need a solid program built on 3 pillars: security awareness, security training, and security education.
Okay, what's the difference? They sound kind of similar.
They build on each other. Security awareness is the baseline. It's about giving all users basic security information to help them make safer choices in their daily work. Think posters about phishing, short presentations on password security, email reminders, even those simulated phishing campaigns.
Ones that try to trick you into clicking a link.
Exactly. They're great for raising awareness and identifying who might need a bit more help. That leads into the next level.
Which is training.
Right. Security training provides more specific skills and knowledge needed for a particular job or role, like technical training for the IT team on how to configure a firewall correctly, or specific training for developers on secure coding practices, or maybe targeted remediation for those folks who clicked the simulated phishing link.
So awareness is broad, training is role-specific skills. What's education, then?
Security education is the deepest level. It's less about specific tasks and more about understanding the underlying principles, methodologies, and concepts. Why do we do security this way? What are the fundamental theories? This is often longer term, maybe through certifications or academic courses. It aims for a deep conceptual understanding. Together, these 3 build a stronger security culture.
It really drives home that everyone is part of the defense, and these programs are how you empower people to play that role effectively. Build that human firewall.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground today, seriously. From the ethical compass guiding everything, through the core concepts, CIA, and now safety. Then into governance, how organizations actually steer the ship.
The frameworks, the roles.
Exactly. Then navigating that whole legal maze, compliance versus security, the laws, privacy rules.
The blueprints, policies, standards, procedures.
Right. Preparing for the worst with BC and DR, understanding RTOs and RPOs.
The crucial personnel security piece.
And then diving deep into risk management, the formula, analysis, treatment, controls. Getting proactive with threat modeling and SCRM.
And finally, empowering the people. Awareness, training, education.
It really is a massive interconnected landscape, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And the key thing to remember, which comes through in the material, is that security and risk management isn't something you achieve and then you're done. It's not static.
Right. It's ongoing.
It's a continuous journey. Technology changes, threats evolve constantly. Even getting a major certification, it's really just a significant milestone on what has to be a path of continuous learning and adaptation.
That really sets up a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on. In this world where new vulnerabilities pop up literally every day and the threats are always shape-shifting, how can any organization be truly confident that the risk they decided was acceptable last year or even last month is still acceptable today? And maybe more personally, what's one step you can take this week to stay ahead of that curve? Something to think about. We'll see you on the next deep dive.